This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
But I know if Peter King had his way, Congressman Peter King, nobody would be smoking weed outdoors. Am I correct on that, Congressman?
Yeah, you're right. I'm really for the old school. I just think that there's dangers in pot. I know people smoke it. I have friends of mine that do it. I just think we've gone too far. And as far as smoking it outdoors, I mean, you know, people walk through Penn Station. They walk through Grand Central. So unless you can become high just by walking through the station. But, I think you said the other day, you know, Bloomberg got people to stop smoking outside. So, you know, irregular cigarettes. So I don't see why they can't do something similar with marijuana.
Yeah, they can. The law is there. Even the socialists passed that in the law to legalize the recreational use of marijuana, but there's no enforcement. In fact, I can't think the last time I saw anybody strike up a cigarette, Newports, you know, menthols. Oh my God, that's like currency in jail. And then the regular cigarettes, you almost never see anybody smoking a cigarette outdoors. But, boy, they do puff, puff, pass. They smoke that weed like there's no tomorrow. It's like a purple haze that covers our whole city, Peter.
No, it does. It just creates a whole climate. You know, we don't need. Things are bad enough without that. But, again, I would hope that if the police do start to enforce that they get support. Because now it's sort of looked upon as a joke, I think, by many people. You know, if you crack down any kind of pot smoke at all, you're old-fashioned, you're living in the past. I think, again, Bloomberg was able to generate support for that. Because it's one thing to tell the cops they can do it, but if there's no public support for it, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think, again, a governor, mayor, the local officials can hopefully mobilize some kind of support for that without looking as if they're totally old-fashioned or out of date like you and I are.
Oh, no, speak for yourself there, Peter King. Out of date, you're out of date. But let's give praise where praise is due. We just did it with your fellow Nassau County resident, Senator Al D'Amato. Your county executive, Bruce Blakeman, threw the gauntlet down, said nationally in Nassau County, boys are boys, girls are girls. Boys are not going to be playing girl sports. Men are not going to be playing women's sports. And he got sued right away by Tish James, the state attorney general. Now we see that President-elect Donald Trump has said there will not be boys playing girl sports or men playing women's sports. So clearly, it looks like that situation is going to be confronted head on at the White House.
Yeah, I certainly hope it is. I think Donald Trump is going to follow through on it. And you're right about Bruce, though. He deserves credit on this. Everyone says, oh, yeah, this is wrong, but nobody stepped forward. Everyone was afraid to get out there. I'm talking about government officials. You know, to get out front talking about transgenders in sports. They're afraid of being called bigoted. Bruce did it. He was smart. He mobilized a number of women's groups behind him. He had it totally planned. He did what he had to do, and he felt strongly about it, and he went ahead and did it. And it turns out that the people were on his side, and they respected someone who had the guts to speak out publicly on that, just like he did, you know, with the mask law. I mean, Governor Hochul was saying last year sometime, you know, she was going to have the mask in place last summer, and nothing's been done at the state or the city. Bruce got it done in Nassau County, and again, he's being sued on that, but he's standing tall. And also going back to we had the demonstrations, all those pro-Hamas demonstrations, anti-Israel demonstrations. Bruce made it clear he would not tolerate any kind of disturbance, anything getting out of hand. They had a certain place they could demonstrate. They could do all they wanted in that limited area. They stepped outside. They were getting locked up.
Perfect.
And it worked.
Perfect example. Yesterday, the crazies were out in force right outside of the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center, screaming, "Free Bethlehem, Jesus was a Palestinian." All of the tourists there wondering, what are these people doing out here singing "From the River to the Sea"? claiming Jesus was a Palestinian. Free Bethlehem. I've been to Bethlehem. It is free. There are Christian Palestinians there. There are Muslim Palestinians. There are Jews who live there in general harmony. The people who are parishioners come from all over the world to both the Greek Orthodox Church there and the Roman Catholic Church, because obviously it's the site of where Jesus was birthed. And there have been no problem since Israel has been in control. When Jordan had control, Peter King, it would depend on what day of the week if the Jordanians decided to let any of the parishioners come into Bethlehem.
Yeah, I've been in Bethlehem, and you're right. And I would say throughout Israel, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, no matter what you are, you have more rights in any section of Israel than almost anybody has in Muslim countries, including the Muslims themselves. I mean, the fact is that Israel lives in a tough neighborhood. There's tough conditions there because of all the pressures they're under. But the fact is it's a beacon of democracy in that area of the world, and that with all the complaints you get from Palestinians and others, they do better there under the Israelis than they ever did under any of the Muslim leadership. And, of course, the other irony is that none of the Muslim countries want the Palestinians. So that's the other irony in this. Always talk, I mean, Egypt blocks them out. Jordan doesn't want them. So Israel has done yeoman work. The fact that they are being attacked the way they are, I'm talking about diplomatically attacked around the world, is an absolute disgrace. I say that, my family came from Ireland. The fact that Ireland is basically cozying up to the Palestinians, turning their backs on Israel, is indefensible. And all those other countries, one after the other, including the British, they side with the Palestinians against the Israelis, and it's indefensible.
I think it was 1972, Richard Nixon, the president, broke the bamboo curtain between us and Red China, met with Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai, I believe it was, in Beijing. The president now, President-elect Trump, has invited President Xi to come to the inauguration. First time a foreign leader has been invited to an inauguration that I can remember. What do you think of that move?
I don't know if the Chinese will do it, but I'd tell you with Donald Trump, I've given up trying to figure out his moves because they usually look like they make absolutely no sense at all. And somehow in the end they work. I mean, he's thinking at different levels than the rest of us. He's playing chess and we're playing checkers. So I think, listen, I assume he has a game plan. I assume he has a master plan, and that could well work. It worked during his first term. You and I could have sat down and listed all these things he did wrong by the usual rules. But the fact is, during his 4 years in office, there were no wars, there were no invasions. Israel was not attacked. Ukraine was not attacked. China was not moving on Taiwan. And there was a relative sense of stability in the world, even though at every stage of the game, all the professional diplomats were criticizing Donald Trump. So I would say let him follow this through, let him play it out. And to me, no one has had a better grasp of what he has in mind than Trump has. I mean, you take Israel. I mean, you had since 1948, and certainly since 1967, the world has been trying to find some elements of peace in the Middle East. What he was able to do with the Abraham Accords, bringing Arab nations to actually sign agreements with Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, was incredible. I mean, that was just unheard of. And yet it was done. He got no credit for it from enough people. So he has his own style of diplomacy. And I think also with Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, you have someone who will be able to provide a good guiding hand. I think Rubio is the type of guy who will be able to take whatever Trump is putting out there, whatever ideas Donald Trump has, and Rubio can start to also make it work. So I think it's going to be a good foreign policy team, unlike in the first administration where we had Rex Tillerson in there. He barely knew the guy. Tillerson barely knew President Trump, but thought he knew everything about the world and actually knew very little. And the whole thing collapsed as far as that type of leadership. Trump had to do it himself, and then he had Mike Pompeo in. But I think Marco Rubio is going to do an excellent job.
Well, anything to wean Red China away from the axis of evil. Putin in Russia, the Ayatollah in Iran. Look, he's got a great relationship with Trump. He's already got a respect for Trump. I think if he comes, that would be a major, major coup for incoming President Donald Trump. to have Xi as a potential friend instead of a foe, because we're spending a lot of money. They're spending a lot of money trying to compete against one another. AI, there's the fentanyl situation, there's the Navy competition. Be much better to have him in a more friendly posture than as our number one foe in the world.
You know, when Nixon went to China back in 1971, 72, one of his goals was to separate Russia from China. And to a large extent, he succeeded in doing that, or the Soviet Union from China. And I think right now, if he can break into this axis of evil with Iran, Russia, and China by moving China to the side, and then by strengthening Israel, that sort of weakens Iran, which has really been weakened already. And then you have Russia standing by itself. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, I think. And if he can do that and create enough confusion among the three of them by having China there, and also by having the rest of the world look at it and seeing if the U.S. is playing an assertive role, not just sitting back and waiting for events to occur, but actually going out and trying to dominate events ourselves by, again, running his own patterns, running his own past plays. Again, it's worked for him in the first administration. I think it's going to work even more so in the second administration because he has a much better knowledge now of who he's dealing with, and he has his own people in. When he came in the first time, he felt that he was the president and that the people he would be given or recommended to him would follow his lead. And he really didn't know. He didn't know Tillerson. So many of these people that he brought in, he really didn't know. He didn't know General Mattis. And then even his own personal staff. Some of them came from the National Committee and everything else. Once he got in, he realized a number of these people were working against him. They had their own agendas. Well, now everyone he's bringing in is a personal, handpicked Trump appointee.
Let me just say this is frightening. Even Kevin George, our program director, acknowledges that the back-to-back belly-to-belly, Peter King, Congressman, and Curtis Lee will have agreed 2 days in a row on the same subjects. This is frightening, Congressman.
Well, it's even frightening if we have to rely on Kevin to get our judgment. I mean, that guy, I don't know what he does. He's always hanging out there. Does he do any work, Kevin? Or every now and then he calls me on the phone to bother me, but does he do any work?
No, he's doing a great job. Look, with him as program director, we're the number one radio station in the nation by day, coast to coast, and the number one at night globally, and you are a contributor to that, Congressman Peter King. So continued celebration as we move to the new year. Out with the old 2024.
28 years in Congress, and he's still speaking out for his district in Nassau County.
Yes, he is. And
thank you, John.
In with the new.
Happy New Year's to Kevin. No matter what I said, he's a great guy.
Okay, we'll make sure we tell him.
Yeah, he heard. He heard.